Make last-minute checks on gear and life support systems as they prepare for their first outing to fix the Hubble Space Telescope. They're not only relying on their equipment, some crew members also took with them some good luck charms for the tough repair job ahead.
At this hour, the Space Shuttle Endeavour is closing in fast on a rendezvous with the flawed Hubble telescope. CNN's John Holliman has been keeping an eye on NASA's ambitious repair mission. He's joining us now with a breakdown of what's happening, and I guess this is a scale model of the telescope.
NASA gave us this 1/25th scale model of the telescope. We just found out a couple of minutes ago that the astronauts have been inside of the telescope for a while, and they have discovered a problem with one of the solar panels. Not sure what it is yet, because they're still a little far away. The shuttle less than 8 miles away from the telescope right now, and Commander Dick Covey is maneuvering the small thruster rockets aboard to get it as close as it possibly can. Covey sighted the telescope a few hours ago and immediately called in his find to the ground controllers.
Tally-ho on Hubble there, Houston.
Copy that, Covey. We're anxious to hear any words you have to say about what you see.
CNN's Miles O'Brien has researched what had to happen to get to this point.
And Endeavour, we've got some video.
Astronaut Claude Nicollier gave Endeavour's mechanical arm an hour-long workout as the shuttle hurtled its way toward a rendezvous with the Hubble Space Telescope. Both man and machine worked just fine.
At some point, we may have a snag. One of the instruments that we want to replace may not fit exactly, and we'll have to reconvene and reconfigure and try to find a way of leaving the telescope in the best possible status.
But first, they have to get there. Endeavour is gaining on Hubble from below. As it gets closer, the crew will prepare for some tricky piloting to get the shuttle in position to capture the space telescope without contaminating its sensitive optics. Hubble ground controllers have already ceased observations and closed the aperture door. Later, they will align the telescope for rendezvous. Once the shuttle is 1,200 feet below and 500 feet behind Hubble, Endeavour Commander Dick Covey will begin flying the orbiter by hand.
This is a very ambitious mission. We brought as many things as we could possibly bring aboard the Endeavour to help repair and service the telescope.
Since Hubble was designed for in-orbit servicing, it has 2 grapple fixtures designed to match the end of the mechanical arm. This should make it fairly simple to latch on to the space telescope. Nicollier has practiced for hundreds of hours in water tanks and with virtual reality. The arm will carry Hubble onto a flight support system where it will be locked in place. An electrical cable will be remotely attached so it can run on power from the shuttle. During this time, the crew will take a close look at Hubble, the first time it's been seen in more than 3 years. While the crew has trained for hundreds of hours, they aren't leaving anything to chance.
Well, I have a gold necklace that I always fly with, and I've flown with for the last 20 years. That's my good luck charm.
They may need some luck as they grapple with the most challenging shuttle mission ever. Miles O'Brien, CNN, Atlanta.
We don't have live TV pictures of the approach because the satellite TV antenna that is used to send us live TV from the shuttle, it's actually this antenna right here, is being used to help guide Endeavour up to the telescope. But we do have this NASA model, and we can show you what is probably happening right now. The telescope has been moved into position something like this, and these 2 points, here and here, Catherine, are what NASA calls grapple fixtures. What they are is just pins that stick out with little targets around them. And the robot arm of the telescope in about 2 hours should come out and then just hook up to this point, and that's the way they'll pull this thing down into the cargo bay. It'll take probably an hour to get it in there because they're being so very careful with it. After it gets in there, they'll do a survey. They'll look around with TV cameras all over to see about any possible damage. This thing that I told you about right at the beginning, which the commander of the shuttle said that one of the solar panels was sort of bent up, is potentially bad news, because on one of their spacewalks, they're going to have to get these solar panels to roll up so they can bring them back inside the shuttle cargo bay. And if this one is messed up significantly, they may not be able to roll it up. If that happens, they're going to have to pull it off the side of the telescope, sort of like this, and then kick it out of the shuttle cargo bay, either on the robot arm or by hand. These things weigh a lot on the ground, but not much in space. A couple of astronauts might have to grab it and just throw it off into space, which would be a, a sad thing because it would be a cost to NASA and the European Space Agency of several $1 million.
They weren't anticipating that problem, were they?
Nope, but they are trying to, they have, in all of their hundreds of hours of ground training, they've tried to anticipate every possible problem. One of the spacewalking astronauts, Story Musgrave, came up with this plan just to throw the thing away if they couldn't get it to roll up normally. And they have 2 brand new ones that are supposed to correct a problem that the telescope has had.
John, is there any chance that they may not be able to catch it?
Yeah, there is a chance of that, Catherine. And the NASA managers on the ground are worried about it. We have a picture now of from NASA of the ground controllers who are considering possibilities like that. What they have done in the past few minutes is done a small rocket firing aboard the space shuttle to get it to within 3 to 5 miles of the telescope. And what has to happen at precisely the right moment, about 2 hours from now, is that the robot arm has to find that pin and hook up. And if it doesn't, they'll have a few more minutes that they can try to do something. But these 2 things are going to pass in the night if they don't get the robot arm attached within, a certain number of minutes.
All very exciting, and I guess we'll be seeing some pictures of that, we hope, later
Absolutely.
this morning, right?
Yeah, I'll be back in a couple of hours as this starts to unfold, and we'll talk some more.
Thank you. Well, after stalking the Hubble telescope for 820,000 miles, astronauts on board the Endeavour have captured the telescope. John Holliman is joining us now. We actually have some pictures of all this, don't we?
Yep, Catherine, I think the people watching at home would much rather see the Hubble Space Telescope than you and me because they've seen us more recently. Let's go ahead and take the live picture. The telescope has not been seen by human beings for 3.5 years since it was released from the shuttle 3.5 years ago. Let's listen to the NASA commentators as they tell us what we are looking at here, but it's pretty obvious the telescope is attached to the shuttle's robot arm. These pictures, of course, live from Shuttle Endeavour, and as you can see, the shuttle is in darkness right now. It is traveling between Australia and the west coast of North America, and so it's very dark. There are some spotlights out in the cargo bay of the shuttle that are illuminating the telescope, but it looks pretty good, at least to this uneducated eye. Earlier, we were told that there was a problem with one of the solar panels. The right side solar panel was bent over, and you can't really see it in the darkness right now, but as the shuttle begins to move toward daylight, it might be possible that we could get some more light on it and have a look. The best news of all, though, Catherine, is that the Hubble Space Telescope is firmly attached to the shuttle's robot arm.
Went off without a hitch, too, right?
Yeah, it certainly did. The astronauts were hoping to do this hookup at about a 3:45 Eastern Time, and they were able to do it actually about 2 minutes late. The hookup came about 20 minutes ago. I think we now have some sound of what it sounded like on the ground in Mission Control as this hookup occurred.
The flight support system. He's using the camera on the flight support system to assist in proper alignment of the telescope above that structure before he lowers it down onto the circular device. The flight support system is a turntable that can rotate and tilt to allow the various work sites on the telescope to always be facing forward to allow the crew members easy access to the various bays and work sites on the telescope.
Now at the bottom of your screen, right under the word Endeavour, is the tail of the space shuttle. That just sort of orients you to where the telescope is being held right now. In a few minutes, it's going to be lowered down into the very back end of the cargo bay. And there's a turntable, sort of a lazy Susan device back there.
That's what he was talking about.
Yeah, and that's what Kyle Herring, the NASA commentator, was telling us about. As the telescope is sitting there in space, I think probably before they lower it down, they're going to want to have a better look at what's going on here just to make sure it'll fit in there. They told me we need to go and take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and have some more of this live picture of the telescope from space. So stay with us.
The the Hubble telescope has been captured by the astronauts on board the Shuttle Endeavour, and John Holliman is joining us now. We've been looking at some exciting pictures of the telescope.
Yeah, imagine, Catherine, if you will, you're one of the NASA managers or the NASA astronomers who's been looking at this telescope or looking at the pictures from it for the past 3.5 years. Here's our live shot from Space Shuttle Endeavour. There's a camera up in the front of the cargo bay that's taking this picture for us. You can see the telescope there highlighted with some bright spotlights in the cargo bay. The telescope has not been seen in 3.5 years, and so these first pictures from space must be fascinating for the telescope operators and the NASA managers who have planned this repair mission. There was some worry a little while ago that maybe the shuttle wasn't going to be able to conduct this. They call it a grapple maneuver. It amounts to grapple maneuver is NASA speak for grabbing the telescope. There have been some problems with the telescope that can be seen from these pictures, we are told. The right side solar panel has been bent somehow. This is interesting because ground controllers told us yesterday that the solar panels were working much better than they expected them to. That's before they knew that this one panel was somehow bent. As we get more light out there in the cargo bay, or as the shuttle passes over the Earth, we'll get a better look at this, of course, and we'll be able to see a little bit more about what's going on. Catherine, I don't know if you can tell.
Is it the one on the right side?
I think it's the one on the right side. What's happening right now is that the telescope is beginning to move down into the cargo bay. I can see it moving very slowly downward.
Arm operator here in Mission Control, Al Lee, reports his data shows that the telescope is in the proper hover position above the flight support system. The next step, again, is to power up the television camera on the flight support system. This camera looks directly up at the telescope, and this will help in fine alignment of the spacecraft over the support structure.
The flight support system, Catherine, is this lazy Susan that it's going to sit on.
The turntable sort of thing.
Yeah, and there is a little black and white TV camera right in the middle of the turntable. And in a couple of minutes, I guess that camera will come on and we'll lose our color picture, but we'll be able to see exactly what the scientists on the ground and Claude Nicollier, the Swiss operator of the robot arm from the European Space Agency, is able to see as they guide this thing down into the cargo bay.
And he was actually the one who
grabbed
caught
it. Yeah, exactly.
They're moving into the cargo bay now, or are they actually already?
No, well, the telescope is only connected to the shuttle right now by the robot arm. Up at the top of your screen on the right-hand side, you can see the arm up there. On our model that we've been showing our viewers earlier this morning, I showed you that the grapple fixture, they call it. It's sort of a target with a pin coming out of the middle of it, and the arm is hooked on to that pin now, and they have a firm connection. The words from the astronauts to the ground 25 minutes ago now when they captured the telescope was, we have a firm handshake with Mr. Hubble. And the fellows and the women and men of NASA who were on the ground in Houston just broke into cheers and applause. They were so excited about this.
This is a good sign. It's starting off well.
Yeah, everything for the first,
on time, on schedule, no problems.
First 3 or 4 days of this mission have been almost flawless. And it's going to be interesting to see. I can see a little bit better that solar panel now. I can't see what the astronauts could see when it was out in sunlight when they were several miles away from it. But there's apparently some damage to the solar panel on the right, which we'll be hearing more about and seeing more about as the telescope comes down into the cargo bay.
You were telling us earlier that this could change their repair schedule.
Exactly. What they have planned for is 5 spacewalks. The first one starting about 19 hours from right now, where they'll go out and repair some gyroscopes. And then the next spacewalk, which is scheduled for late Sunday night, early Monday morning, United States time, would be to repair or to replace the solar panels. If one of the solar panels is broken to the point that they can't roll it up and put it inside the shuttle's cargo bay, they're going to have to ditch it. They'll just unplug it from the side of the telescope and push it out into space some way. There are 2 ways to do that. One is for astronauts just to manhandle it, grab it, and throw it off the edge. And the other is might be to use the robot arm to do that.
A dangerous addition to their plan.
Yeah, it could be dangerous. There are a lot of things that could go wrong in this mission, but so far it's been pretty good. And what's happening now is that the ground controllers and the astronauts aboard Endeavour are waiting for this small black and white camera to come on down inside the cargo bay, which will look up at the bottom of the telescope. It's critical that the telescope come down into the cargo bay at exactly the right spot because there is an electrical umbilical cord, basically a power cord down there that the telescope has to plug into. And if it's not lined up precisely, it's not going to be able to plug into that. We've gone to a very dark picture there from space. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think perhaps the spotlight that was out in the cargo bay went off. On our little TV set here, you can still see a very black picture with a tiny little bit of light over in the corner.
We will have more live coverage right after this break, so stay with us.
Yep. They have some NASA speak for this, which I don't think our viewers need to worry about very much. But that's what it is. It's a structure that has clamps around the edges that the telescope will fit down into. I guess you can see it is moving downward as we speak here, very, very slowly. One of the highlights of this mission is going to be how slowly everything happens, because they really don't want to break this telescope anymore.
And how close are they right now? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, they're about 10 feet above the turntable. And the telescope itself, you should know, is about 14 feet across at the bottom. And the bottom is the part that's down. And up above the bottom, out where the robot arm is connected, is the part where the actual telescope mirrors are. That is a 10-foot diameter area, about 3 meters for our viewers in other countries who are in the metric system. And the cargo bay itself is about 20 feet across. So there's a lot of room in there for it to fit down in.
It should be exciting when they maneuver it over the turntable and there's a camera inside there as well,
right? Yeah, there's a little black and white TV camera, which apparently they haven't been able to turn on yet, which is why we're not seeing it. But I'm sure, because they have so many workarounds, they call them, alternate plans, they'll be able to put this thing down without that camera. Kyle Herring, the NASA commentator, I believe, is talking now. We may want to hear what he has to say.
I believe they're moving over Florida right now.
Ah, okay.
So, let's listen to what they're saying. Of course, as soon as we stop talking.
So do they. Well,
so
I'm glad you were able to hear that, Catherine. If they're over Florida, that means they're going to be in daylight over not the European continent, but the African continent in probably about 20 or 25 minutes. While all this is going on, it's fascinating to note they are traveling at 17,000 miles an hour.
Oh,
I mean, you think about the telescope going 17,000, the shuttle going 17,000, and the ability to hook up the robot arm at that speed and at a distance of 313 miles above the Earth. It's quite something. We should probably talk about why this mission is so important. The telescope is broken. It's not doing everything it is supposed to be doing.
Out of focus.
Exactly, exactly. Inside the telescope, just below where the robot arm is attached, there is a mirror that's nearly 10 feet across, 91 inches, I guess, is the diameter of that mirror. And a group of optical experts was working on that mirror more than 10 years ago to make sure it was ground to exactly the right prescription, and they made a mistake. The mistake on the outer edge of the mirror is a mistake that is the width of 1/50th of a human hair. Tiny mistake. The result of that mistake is that the telescope cannot do about a third of the things it was supposed to do. It was designed to look out 10 billion light years from where we are now. And NASA called it the Great Time Machine, because it's going to be able to see things that were actually happening 10 billion years ago. Now, I don't have a great concept of what that means, but I know that because the mirror is messed up, it can only see about 40% of that distance, about 4 billion light years back. And consequently, they needed to do something to make it work better. And that's what they're going to be doing over the next about 8 or 10 days.
And we get to see it all, right?
Right.
We're going to take a break. CNN Live coverage will continue after this. We are bringing you live coverage of the Hubble telescope as the astronauts on board the Shuttle Endeavour maneuver it into the cargo bay. John Holliman joining us.
Catherine, it's very interesting. We have our live picture back again from space. We ought to show that to you now if we can, because we do have a little bit more bright light on the Hubble Space Telescope itself as the shuttle continues to fly. I think the shuttle is now over Central America, and as soon as it moves a little bit more to the east, we'll have some sunlight to give us a better view of this.
John, perhaps we should tell everyone at home exactly what they're seeing. That's obviously the Hubble telescope there and the robotic arm. Where is the camera located? Is it inside the cargo bay?
Well, it's inside the cargo bay up next to the front of the shuttle. it's very close to where the astronauts are doing their work, and the controls for the robot arm and all that are up there. But it is outside in space. For this mission, NASA has 2 very good color cameras that we'll be able to use to watch all the spacewalks that they're going to do to repair the telescope. This is what they call their wide shot camera, and it gives you the big picture of what's going on. The other camera that they'll be using, that's a color TV camera, you can actually see in this picture, right above CNN Live. If you look up, there's an elbow in the robot arm, and on that elbow there's a little white thing sticking out just to the left of the elbow. That's their other color TV camera. They also have 6 or 7 black and white cameras that they'll occasionally be using to show us things here.
And they're in the process of maneuvering it over what you've referred to as the turntable?
Yep. They have some NASA speak for this, which I don't think our viewers need to worry about very much. But that's what it is. It's a structure that has clamps around the edges that the telescope will fit down into. I guess you can see it is moving downward as we speak here, very, very slowly. One of the highlights of this mission is going to be how slowly everything happens, because they really don't want to break this telescope anymore.
And how close are they right now? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, they're about 10 feet above the turntable, and the telescope itself, you should know, is about 14 feet across at the bottom. And the bottom is the part that's down, and up above the bottom, out where the robot arm is connected, is the part where the actual telescope mirrors are. That is a 10-foot diameter area, about 3 meters for our viewers in other countries who are in the metric system. And the cargo bay itself is about 20 feet across, so there's a lot of room in there for it to fit down in.
It should be exciting when they maneuver it over the turntable, and there's a camera inside there as well, right?
Yeah, there's a little black and white TV camera, which apparently they haven't been able to turn on yet, which is why we're not seeing it. But I'm sure, because they have so many workarounds, they call them, alternate plans, they'll be able to put this thing down without that camera. Kyle Herring, the NASA commentator, I believe, is talking now. We may want to hear what he has to say.
I believe they're moving over Florida right now.
Ah, okay.
So, let's listen to what they're saying. Of course, as soon as we stop talking.
So did they. Well,
so
I'm glad you were able to hear that, Gavin. If they're over Florida, that means they're going to be in daylight over not the European continent, but the African continent in probably about 20 or 25 minutes. While all this is going on, it's fascinating to note they are traveling at 17,000 miles an hour.
Oh,
I mean, you think about the telescope going 17,000, the shuttle going 17,000, and the ability to hook up the robot arm at that speed and at a distance of 313 miles above the Earth. It's quite something. We should probably talk about why this mission is so important. The telescope is broken. It's not doing everything it is supposed to be doing.
Out of focus.
Exactly, exactly. Inside the telescope, just below where the robot arm is attached, there is a mirror that's nearly 10 feet across, 91 inches, I guess, is the diameter of that mirror. And a group of optical experts was working on that mirror more than 10 years ago to make sure it was ground to exactly the right prescription, and they made a mistake. The mistake on the outer edge of the mirror is a mistake that is the width of 1/50th of a human hair. Tiny mistake. The result of that mistake is that the telescope cannot do about 1/3 of the things it was supposed to do. It was designed to look out 10 billion light years from where we are now. And NASA called it the Great Time Machine, because it's going to be able to see things that were actually happening 10 billion years ago. Now, I don't have a great concept of what that means, but I know that because the mirror is messed up, it can only see about 40% of that distance, about 4 billion light years back. And consequently, they needed to do something to make it work better. And that's what they're going to be doing over the next about 8 or 10 days.
And we get to see it all, right?
Right.
We're going to take a break. CNN Live coverage will continue after this. You are looking at live pictures of the Hubble telescope as it is maneuvered inside the cargo bay of the Shuttle Endeavour. And John Holliman is with us, telling us what the astronauts are in the middle of doing, and this is exciting. They're moving it toward the turntable right now, is what we've established.
They're trying to lower it into the cargo bay of the shuttle so that it can stay there permanently, and they can use the robot arm, which you see there on the right of your screen, for other things. The reason the picture is getting bright and dark is because the shuttle itself is beginning to move into sunlight. It is off the east coast of Florida, moving toward Africa right now. And as soon as the cameras are very much like your home video cameras, probably, they have an automatic device to make the cameras compensate for the amount of light they're getting, and this automatic device is trying to adjust to very bright light as it hits over on the right of the telescope.
And we're seeing the solar panel there actually
that's right.
lighting up, right?
Yeah. And in fact, I see, look at the bottom there, and you can see there's like a flashlight being pointed at the bottom of the telescope right now as well. I'd like our viewers to hear something that was the sound made by the astronauts and by the ground controllers at the time that the people in the shuttle told the people on the ground that they'd actually captured the telescope. Here's what it sounded like just a few minutes ago.
Houston, Endeavour has a firm handshake with Mr. Hubble's telescope.
We copy that, Cubby, and there are smiles galore down here.
It's quite a sight. We are in drift mode, and Sunpoint is disabled.
We see that, and just for the benefit of the rendezvous folks up there, your prop margins were well within what we predicted. Great work up there, you guys.
Now live from space, Catherine, that black and white camera picture we were talking about a few minutes ago. This is a camera that's in the bottom of the shuttle cargo bay in the rear. That camera is pointing up at the bottom of the Hubble Space Telescope.
So are we looking inside the telescope at this point?
Yeah, we're looking up at the bottom of it. And what they have there is several ports, they call them, which is where they can hook the telescope up to various things. On the first day of spacewalk, some of those pieces of equipment you see sticking out are going to have to be covered up with to keep dirt from the shuttle itself from getting inside. Right at the bottom of your screen, you'll see one of the unique things about this satellite. It's actually just is moving out of view on the left of your screen. It's a handhold or a foothold, so that astronauts can actually go out there and grab hold to bars, sort of like towel bars in your bathroom. But it's something for them to hold on to. Because in space you have a lot of difficulty staying still.
This is actually the first time that NASA has had a chance to look inside the Hubble telescope in some time, so I imagine they're quite excited at this point.
Exactly. I wonder if we can listen to the NASA commentator and what he has to say about what's going on now. Well, I guess we can't.
We should say that you're looking at live pictures from space. Transmitted right from CNN and CNN International.
That's right. What we're looking at right now is the bottom of the Space Telescope as seen from a black and white TV camera in the base of the Shuttle Endeavour orbiter. And what will be happening over the next couple of minutes is that the telescope itself will be lowered down on top of this camera into the base.
Jeff Handler reports that berthing latch 3 is closed completely. The next step is to close the remaining 2 latches completely. Those 2 were initially partially closed.
We have a model of the Space Telescope, which NASA gratefully loaned us. And this is the base of the telescope. Here's the telescope as it sits in the cargo bay. And what we're looking at is this part right here. And it looks somewhat different. Actually, it appears to me, Catherine, that we're looking at it from more of this angle.
Number 2
than
now fully closed. The last remaining latch is latch number 1.
What they say latches, what are they referring to?
They're referring to the parts of this turntable thing that the telescope needs to hook into. So what is happening right now is that it's down in the cargo bay, and it's these latches. There are 3. One that would grab it here, one that would grab it here, and another that would grab it here, that are slowly coming up over the edge and hooking on to these parts to make sure that it's going to be permanently in the cargo bay.
And those are the bars you were referring to earlier that we could see there almost in the middle of
Exactly. Those are the latches, 1, 2, and 3. And as soon as those 3 latches are closed...
has been completely closed. The telescope is secured to the flight support system.
All right, it's in.
All right, so the second part of their mission here tonight has been accomplished.
Yeah, and now what they can do is remove the robot arm.
Made the electrical umbilical to the telescope.
The electrical umbilical is the power cord. because, see, they're going to have to take the solar panels off in a couple of days. And with the solar panels off, all the electronic equipment inside the telescope here wouldn't have any way to get electricity. So they're going to give it electricity while they're doing the changeover of the solar panels using the shuttle's electrical system. And that's why this umbilical cord, as they call it, electrical plug to you and me, has to be plugged in here properly. And it goes to actually this box here on the side of the base of the telescope is where that electrical umbilical is.
Now that's the solar panel,
That's
right?
the solar panel, and I believe that's the one that they say they have a problem with. It's beginning to be lighted by the sunlight, which is visible. If you're watching CNN in Africa right now, you can tell that it's daylight there. And this is another view in the cargo bay from a camera that's out on the end of the robot arm. And it's another one of the pictures you can see. Actually, you could for a second there.
That was the camera on the elbow of,
yeah,
the
right.
robotic arm.
Yeah, one of the things that's, in addition to fixing the telescope, they have a few other jobs they have to do while they're up there. They want to make another IMAX movie, one of these big wide format movies, and you can see the IMAX camera box out in the cargo bay. So as this repair job gets done, there'll be probably 8 months to a year from now a great IMAX movie at the Smithsonian or other places around the world where we can see in very good fidelity what's going on up in space.
And there's the solar panel again.
Yeah.
And
The NASA managers are switching around from one camera to another now as they try to figure out how much damage has been done to the telescope itself. You can see the Earth over on the lower left-hand side of your screen from the cargo. Oh, there's
that definitely looks like it's been, is it?
Yeah, you can see that the upper part of that solar panel looks like it is further down on the left side than the right side. And that's what the astronauts have been talking about for more than an hour now. There's been a problem with the solar panels in that every time the shuttle, or rather the telescope, passes from sunlight into darkness or darkness into sunlight, the solar panels begin to vibrate. And the vibrating solar panels vibrate the telescope, and that causes the images to be blurred.
Directly up at the telescope at the solar array. This solar array is on the right side of the telescope looking back.
That is affirmative.
The astronauts are apparently controlling this camera because they just asked the ground controllers if they could see this picture. Right in the middle of your screen, Catherine, you can see this, what they call the cassette. And the solar panels are very thin material. And they have to roll up into that cassette for this panel to be successfully brought home to Earth.
You've been watching live coverage of the Shuttle Endeavour, and we will have another update at the top of the hour, and of course we will break in with news as it warrants.
But first, astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour have snagged the Hubble Space Telescope. They reached out with the shuttle's robot arm and grabbed it early this morning. The Hubble is now anchored in the cargo bay. Astronauts will attempt to repair the defective telescope with a series of spacewalks that begin tonight. Launched in 1990, Hubble is suffering from a badly misshapen mirror, making it impossible to transmit clear pictures. The overhaul is expected to take about 5 days.
After traveling 1.3 million kilometers, the spacecraft early Saturday retrieved the telescope with the shuttle's robot arm. The telescope was then put into the shuttle's cargo bay. The astronauts will now begin a series of spacewalks to repair the telescope. CNN International plans live coverage of the repair throughout the weekend.
Dem amerikanischen Raumfährer Endeavour ist es gelungen, das defekte Weltraumteleskop Hubble einzufangen. Houston, unser Roboterarm schüttelt Hubble kräftig die Hand, meldete der Kommandant der Fähre in das texanische Raumfahrtzentrum.
Houston, Endeavour has a firm handshake with Mr. Hubble's telescope.
Bei dem 5 Milliarden Mal teuren Teleskop sollen 11 Teile, darunter der Hauptspiegel und das verbogene Sonnensegel, ausgetauscht werden. Dazu wurde Hubble in die Ladebucht der Shuttles gehievt. Mindestens 5 Tage sind für die bisher schwierigste Reparatur im Weltraum eingeplant.
Der Endeavour ist es gelungen, das defekte Weltraumteleskop Hubble mit dem Roboterarm der Raumfähre zu fassen. Für die notwendige Reparatur muss das Teleskop nun noch in die richtige Position gebracht werden. Das Teleskop soll mit dem Greifarm in der Ladebucht der Endeavour geborgen werden. Bei offenen Luken versuchen die Astronauten dann, Hubble zu reparieren. Nach ersten Beobachtungen ist ein Sonnenpaddel stark verbogen. Das erschwere nach Meinung von Experten den Rücktransport zur Erde. Insgesamt müssen 11 Teile ausgetauscht werden. Das Teleskop Hubble hatte seit einiger Zeit nur noch unscharfe Aufnahmen geliefert. Die Endeavour war am Donnerstag mit 7 Astronauten an Bord zu einem 11-tägigen Flug ins All gestartet.
Out a multi-million-dollar repair mission. Big mission indeed. Earlier this morning, astronauts used their spacecraft's arm to grab onto the Hubble telescope. During 5 spacewalks over the next 5 days, the crew hopes, very much hopes, to correct the telescope's focusing problem. That is the news till now. We have no trouble focusing on the weather as long as Al Roker is here with his
Handshake with Mr. Hubble's telescope.
A textbook space capture for the Shuttle Endeavour, but that may be the easy part of its crucial mission. Good morning. A high-speed, high-stakes chase has ended in space. A little over 4 hours ago, Endeavour ended its pursuit of the blurry-eyed Hubble telescope and captured it. A very successful start to the most complicated space shuttle mission ever, but it only gets harder from here. CNN's John Holliman joins us now with the latest on this crucial mission for NASA. John?
Ralph, I must tell you, it is going very much like clockwork. The Endeavour astronauts continue to do their work. The latest success came about 4 hours ago as they were able to go out and grab hold of the Hubble Space Telescope. There you see the picture of it as it was brought into the cargo bay just 4 hours ago. Swiss astronaut Claude Nicollier grabbed the telescope and he brought it into the cargo bay. Controllers on the ground applauded word that the telescope was under control. One moderate surprise was how the telescope looks. While most of it looks about the way it did when it was released from the another shuttle cargo bay 3.5 years ago, one of the solar power panels on the side is twisted. A support rod on the outside called a bi-stem is crimped. It could be trouble for spacewalking astronauts on Monday morning who are supposed to watch the solar panels roll up for the transfer back to Earth. If they don't roll up, mission manager Randy Brinkley says there will be no way to bring them home inside Endeavour's cargo bay.
To take the solar array as is, if it fails to retract, stow it on the side and put on a new solar array, and then we will have to jettison that particular solar array.
If the solar panel has to be dumped in space, it could either be done using the robot arm, or a pair of astronauts could actually grab the array and toss it overboard. The shuttle was out of TV contact when the actual pickup of the telescope was done, but just a few minutes ago, Ralph, NASA recorded or played back some of the recorded video of the contact between the robot arm and the telescope. You can see the Earth spinning slowly in the background as the telescope rotates overhead. This is quite dramatic footage that the NASA people have just allowed us to see for the first time. And it went so very smoothly. We saw a picture taken from a camera inside the robot arm as it came out and just slowly grabbed hold of the telescope and then began to pull it back inside. Quite something.
What about the spacewalks themselves? Any problems there foreseen?
Well, there are a couple of minor problems with the spacesuits. One of the two-way radios that's used as a backup is not working as well as it ought to. And there's a drink box, a little container of water inside of Story Musgrave's suit that they're going to have to make work better. It's leaking right now. But I think probably the spacewalks are going to go very well. The next one is scheduled, the first one, scheduled for later this evening Eastern time, about 11 o'clock Eastern.
We shall follow it here, and John Holliman will follow it. Thank you very much, John. China reports that China has rented 8 payload booths for physics experiments in space. The first mission is about 2 years away. China has also agreed to join the European Space Agency's science program. That includes launching 4 research satellites.
Astronauts snatched the defective Hubble Space Telescope from orbit Saturday. They hope to repair its blurry vision. So far, they found one of its solar panels badly twisted out of shape. More from CNN's John Holliman.
The Hubble Space Telescope is firmly mounted in Endeavour's cargo bay and is waiting for the first team of spacewalking astronauts to replace many of its important parts.
It's great that we've gotten back to the telescope now, and it's grappled and berthed on the structure, and we'll be able to start the EVAs tomorrow, it looks like. Everything has worked out the way it was planned.
The telescope was captured by Swiss astronaut Claude Nicollier as it traveled between Australia and Central America.
Houston, Endeavour has a firm handshake with Mr. Hubble's telescope.
We copy that, Cubby, and there are smiles galore down here.
The initial survey showed one major problem. One of the solar panels is warped and will cause trouble for the astronauts who will attempt to roll it up and return it to Earth.
There's a definite kink right at the upper edge of the second panel there, as you can see.
But NASA has a plan to ditch the faulty panel if it can't be rolled up.
To take the solar array as is, if it fails to retract, stow it on the side and put on a new solar array, and then we will have to jettison that particular solar array.
As the telescope continued to orbit the Earth, cameras on board examined every nook and cranny for any additional damage. The next big job for the astronauts will be a spacewalk to replace gyroscopes and fuses. It's scheduled to begin just before midnight Eastern Time. As the mission continues, astronauts will go outside at least 5 times to repair and replace parts. The goal is to make the telescope fly and see straight. A new CNN Time poll suggests 7 out of 10 Americans have a great deal or a fair amount of confidence that NASA will be able to get that job done. John Holliman, CNN reporting.
Die Bergung des Weltraumteleskops Hubble ist geglückt. Die Astronauten der amerikanischen Raumfähre Endeavour haben heute planmäßig das defekte Weltraumteleskop eingefangen. Der Schweizer Astronaut Claude Nicollier konnte Hubble mit einem 15 Meter langen Roboterarm ergreifen und an die Raumfähre heranziehen. In den nächsten Tagen sollen komplizierte Reparaturarbeiten an dem Teleskop ausgeführt werden. Die Astronauten müssen dafür in 600 Kilometer Höhe freischwebend im Weltraum arbeiten. Das 2 Milliarden Dollar teure Teleskop Hubble soll nach seiner Reparatur 15 Jahre lang der NASA Informationen über das Universum liefern.
Die amerikanische Raumfähre Endeavour auf schwieriger Mission im Weltall. Nachdem die Astronauten das Weltraumteleskop Hubble am Shuttle angedockt haben, steht jetzt die bisher komplizierteste Reparatur im All bevor. Dem Teleskop, das 1990 ausgesetzt wurde, sollen unter anderem eine Art Kontaktlinsen eingesetzt werden, die die Reichweiten im All vergrößern. Für die US-Raumfahrtsbehörde NASA gilt die Endeavour-Mission als Härtetest. Das Hubble-Teleskop soll 15 Jahre lang Alter und Ausdehnung des Universums erkundigen.
590 Kilometer über dem Pazifik haben die Astronauten das Teleskop mit dem Greifarm in der Ladebucht der Endeavour geborgen. Hubble steht nun auf einer Drehscheibe, damit sie die komplizierten Reparaturarbeiten bei offenen Luken ausführen können. Erste Untersuchungen ergaben, dass ein Sonnenpaddel des 13 Meter langen Teleskops stark verbogen ist. Das erschwert nach Meinung von Experten den Rücktransport des Teils zur Erde. Falls das Einrollen des Paddels misslingt, soll es einfach über Bord geworfen werden. Insgesamt müssen 11 Geräte ausgetauscht werden. Das Teleskop hatte seit einiger Zeit nur noch unscharfe Aufnahmen geliefert. Die Endeavour war deshalb am Donnerstag mit 7 Astronauten an Bord zu einem 11-tägigen Reparaturflug ins All gestartet.
Die Besatzung der amerikanischen Raumfähre Endeavour hat das defekte Weltraumteleskop Hubble eingefangen. Um 9:48 Uhr meldete der Shuttle-Kommandant an das Raumfahrtzentrum Houston, Endeavour schüttelt Mr. Hubble kräftig die Hand.
Die Astronauten verrichteten Millimeterarbeit, um das riesige Weltraumteleskop an Bord der Endeavour zu bugsieren. Der 15 Meter lange Roboterarm wurde behutsam angekoppelt, damit war Hubble eingefangen. Die Astronauten verankerten das Teleskop im Laderaum des Shuttle, wo sie es reparieren wollen. Sie müssen jetzt bei insgesamt 5 Weltraumspaziergängen als Optiker arbeiten und dem schadhaften Teleskop eine Art riesiger Kontaktlinse anpassen.
Und der US-Raumfähre Endeavour ist gelungen. Heute Morgen haben die Astronauten das defekte Teleskop mit einem Roboterarm eingefangen. Jetzt kann die Reparatur beginnen. Hubble soll eine zusätzliche Linse und neue Sonnensegel bekommen. Diese Aufgabe gilt als eine der kompliziertesten seit der Mondlandung.
Ist es heute gelungen, das defekte Weltraumteleskop Hubble einzufangen. Jetzt soll Hubble im All repariert werden.
Ein Rendezvous gut 500 Kilometer über dem Pazifischen Ozean. Bis auf 10 Meter musste Kommandant Richard Covey die Raumfähre an das Hubble-Teleskop heranmanövrieren. Dann griff der Schweizer Astronaut Claude Nicollier mit dem Roboterarm zu. Kontakt hergestellt, Hubble wurde planmäßig eingefangen. Begeisterung im Kontrollzentrum in Houston, denn die NASA steht unter Leistungsdruck. Nach zahlreichen Fehlschlägen braucht die US-Raumfahrt dringend einen Erfolg. Mit diesem ehrgeizigen Projekt soll ein alter Fehler ausgebügelt werden. Das Hubble-Teleskop ist wegen eines Produktionsfehlers kurzsichtig und kann nur einen Teil seiner Aufgaben erfüllen. Jetzt sollen die Astronauten diese Kontaktlinsen einsetzen und damit die Sehunschärfe beheben. Insgesamt 5-mal werden die Astronauten die Raumfähre verlassen und dabei die Ersatzteile in der Größe eines Telefonhäuschens montieren. Ein wichtiger Test auch dafür, ob überhaupt im Weltraum eine Raumstation zusammengebaut werden kann. Die erste Inspektion zeigte ein weiteres Problem. Eines der beiden Sonnensegel, die das Teleskop mit Strom versorgen, ist überraschend stark verbogen. Ein Foto zeigt das deutlich. Doch die NASA ist optimistisch, auch dieses Problem wieder beheben zu können. Wenn die ehrgeizige Reparatur klappt, soll das Hubble-Teleskop noch weitere 15 Jahre den Geheimnissen des Weltalls auf der Spur bleiben.
Auf Anhieb haben die Astronauten das defekte Weltraumteleskop Hubble eingefangen.
Präzisionsarbeit 600 Kilometer über der Erde. Mit Tempo 28.000 steuert Endeavour bis auf 10 Meter an das Teleskop heran. Ein Roboterarm packt den $2 Milliarden Satelliten und zieht ihn in die Ladebucht. Um 9:48 Uhr meldet Kommandant Dick Covey: Wir haben Mr. Hubbles kräftig die Hand geschüttelt. Die bisher schwierigste Reparaturarbeit im All kann beginnen. Eines der Sonnensegel ist stark beschädigt. Beide Flügel müssen ausgetauscht werden. Außerdem ist das Weltraumauge kurzsichtig geworden. Die Astronauten wollen eine Art gigantische Kontaktlinse einsetzen.
Hier die Meldung an diesem Sonnabend, dass irgendwo auch mal wieder etwas klappen könnte. Nicht hier auf der Erde, sondern 600 Kilometer über unseren Köpfen im All. Dort kreist schon seit Jahren ein riesiges Teleskop um unseren Planeten, ein Fernrohr namens Hubble, durch das man leider nicht viel sehen kann. Hubble ist kurzsichtig und braucht eine Brille. Aber die Optiker sind bereits zur Stelle. Ich sage schon mal auf Wiedersehen und Hildegard Werth beschreibt uns eine teure, aber faszinierende Reparatur.
Da hängt es nun am Haken, das milliardenteure Hightech-Teleskop. Und die Reparatur kann beginnen, mit der das Hubble-Projekt nach einer peinlichen Pannenserie vielleicht doch noch zum Erfolg wird. Wie auch immer die Mission ausgehen mag, heute ist sein Tag. Claude Nicollier, der Astronaut aus der Schweiz und der einzige Europäer im Endeavour-Team, er ist der Mann, der das Teleskop mit dem Robotergreifarm einfing. Bei 28.000 Kilometer pro Stunde wahrlich keine leichte Aufgabe. Bei näherer Betrachtung erwies sich das Gerät als ziemlich ramponiert. Ein Sonnensegel ist total verbogen und auch manches andere funktioniert nicht so, wie es sollte. Den 4 Astronauten, die die Außenbordarbeiten machen, stehen nun harte Tage bevor. Sie sollen insgesamt 11 wichtige Komponenten austauschen. Als erstes sind die Gyroskope an der Reihe, von denen 3 schon lange den Geist aufgegeben haben. Am Montag dann werden die Sonnenpaddel ausgetauscht. Sie hatten von Anfang an Probleme gemacht, weil sie mehrmals am Tag unkontrolliert vibrierten und damit das ganze Teleskop zum Zittern brachten. Immer und immer wieder haben die Astronauten im Wassertank die nötigen Handgriffe geübt. Hier das Einsetzen der Korrekturoptik COSTAR, mit der das kurzsichtige Teleskop wieder scharf sehen soll. Die NASA ist zum Erfolg verdammt. Wenn nicht mindestens die 7 wichtigsten Reparaturen gelingen, ist das Projekt gescheitert. Denn so eifrig die Projektwissenschaftler auch beteuern, Hubble mache trotz aller Macken gute Bilder, es ließ sich nicht verheimlichen, dass das Teleskop bisher die Erwartungen nicht erfüllen konnte. Und erst Monate nach der jetzigen Reparatur wird sich mit Sicherheit sagen lassen, ob Hubble mit Brille nun tatsächlich scharfe Bilder macht. Als Vorgeschmack auf künftige Wunder hat die NASA schon mal ein Video herausgebracht, das im Trick vorführt, was Hubble uns vielleicht zeigen wird, wenn es wieder sehen kann. Jurassic Park im Weltall. Galaxien, die kollidieren und einander verschlingen. Glücklicherweise sind diese kosmischen Katastrophen, wenn wir sie sehen können, schon sehr lange vorbei.
Hello, Claude. Hey, Sax. Hey, Covey. Hey, Thomas. Hey, KT. Hello, Story.
This television from Endeavour is from a camera mounted on the mechanical arm as it moves over the forward portion of the cargo bay area where the replacement solar arrays. In this view is an end of a replacement solar array for the Hubble Space Telescope in their carrier where they're stored for launch. Also the carrier where the old arrays will be stored once they're removed from the telescope. This television from Endeavour shows the umbilical that would be connected to the space telescope once it's berthed.
We have a really good picture of that umbilical down here.
Great, Houston.
Endeavour, we're on the west and we got the video.
To ship you a quick shot of the It's not as colorful, but as you see, we have good visibility of it. Should have no trouble using it.
This live television view is from a camera that's mounted in the front right-hand corner of Endeavour's cargo bay, looking back over the support equipment mounted throughout the bay. In the foreground is the right-hand side of the solar array carrier and one of the replacement solar arrays for the Hubble Space Telescope. In the background, about midway down the bay, are the two scientific instrument protective enclosures. In the radial sipe, the sipe that scientific protective instrument enclosure that runs crossways across the bay holds the Wide Field Planetary Camera 2 instrument, or WIFPIC 2. The axial scientific instrument protective enclosure, the enclosure that runs lengthwise about the middle of the cargo bay, holds the Corrective Optics Space Telescope Axial Replacement, or COSTAR instrument. The smaller enclosures on the right-hand side of the cargo bay hold the new Crow processor that will be added to the telescope to increase its computer memory. In the larger enclosure. And in the small enclosure are the new rate sensor units, the new gyroscopes that will be added to the telescope, the electronics control units that will be added, and the Goddard high-resolution spectrograph redundancy kit. Again, the survey of the cargo bay found no problems reported with any of the equipment. It all appears to be in excellent shape. This is Mission Control Houston on board. The crew's in their lunch break the midpoint of their day. Controllers from the Space Telescope Operations Control Center at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland have reported that
I guess that means HST has finished its last pre-servicing mission operations. Probably a good time to bid farewell to the high-speed photometer, all the good work that it's done, and great pictures that WIP 1 has taken, even with the aberration. It's a real tribute to the ingenuity of a whole lot of astronomers who have worked really hard, and we hope we can make it even better.
We copy that, Jeff. Thanks for the great words, and I think you're correct. I think the HST has done its job, and we're ready to have you guys improve it even more than it is right now. Story, we'll be happy to work EMU checkout with you as soon as your hunger is sated.
Well, looking at them, it looks like it's going to be a while. How about 10 minutes?
Sounds good to us.
And Houston, it's really big.
We can't wait to see the video, Sox.
Shuttle Endeavour, more words on the solar arrays.
Jeff, we are all ears. Go ahead.
My initial report on 2 straight solar arrays was made about 5 minutes after sunrise. And about 15 minutes ago, we started looking again when it came out of the sun's glare. And the right-hand solar array, as we can see it, is one side of it is bent way over. So clearly we have a dynamic situation. And I'm sure we'll get some interesting pictures as we get closer. And just so that you're aware, we'll give you another report next orbit.
We copy. Endeavour, the Keep Alive monitor is disabled, and you've got to go for capture.
Again, the actual capture of the telescope requires some precision flying by the commander, in this case Dick Covey, to maneuver the shuttle into position to within about 35 feet or so of the telescope. At that point, Claude Nicollier, operating the robot arm, can maneuver the arm into place to capture the spacecraft by attaching the end of the arm to one of the 2 grapple fixtures on the telescope.
Houston, Endeavour has a firm handshake with Mr. Hubble's telescope.
We copy that, Covey, and there are smiles galore down here.
It's quite a sight.
Endeavour Houston, we've got a great elbow view.
You are getting the solar ring, Greg?
That is affirmative.
Okay.
second kink, a couple of feet below the obvious one that is on the back side there of that section of the bi-stem. It's not quite as bad, but it does have a little crease in it. The good news is the minus V2 array looks real good.